everyone. I'm so excited for today. This is the last day that I added because maybe you were interested in my story. Now I shared 13 people's stories throughout the past 5 days, and I am sure if you watch them, you have taken away something. And I really think myself rewatching these videos, it's something to think about, to rewatch and to connect and to find a way to just reflect on our own lives. And when I was thinking about what I'm going to say, I was like, well, this is going to be a tough one because where do I start? Mindfulness showed up in my life throughout my life, actually. And looking back at these 41 years that I've had, there are so many different points in my life that I led with what's the most important thing to me, which is my heart. And I actually want to start where I think it shifted for me. I think where the pathways from my previous self, if you want to call it this, to my now self has shifted. I wouldn't say changed because I don't think I personally changed much. All I think that happened has it added more to my life. And it happened, it was 2016, which is now 4 years ago. And actually, it's exactly 4 years to this month where this change started, this transformation. And it happened when I lost my job at a company that I spent over 6 years at. And what shifted for me is because I took a leave. I was pregnant a year before, and then I decided that once I have my son, I would take a leave for 10 months, which I did. But what happened is during my leave, a new person took over the position of the president of my company. And when I was still there, when you are working somewhere for a period of time, there is a dynamic happening, and you know the people know you, and you know what's going on. And I always led with how I feel, how I believe, and I never thought I can't do something. If you tell me you can't do this, I will do it. And this is actually what happened with this Spiritpreneurship Summit. I mean, not that somebody said you can't do this, but they just said it's very hard and a lot of work. And I said, this is me. This is what I have to do. And so going back to that time and coming back from a maternity leave, coming back to work, and then realizing that this dynamic wasn't the same anymore. There has been apparently some signs sent to me that I didn't receive, that I'm supposed to change something. And maybe for the good, I didn't receive the real signals or conversations about, hey, you have to change XYZ so that you can keep your job. Because what happened then, after I came back about almost a year later, I almost feel like it was like, something that is in the books. You have to keep them for a year once they come back, and then you can do whatever you want. And so after a year, they let me go, and they told me that I just wasn't doing the job I was supposed to do. And that's why I said that I don't think that I never do anything, that I can do anything. That's always been my motto of life, that no matter what, I can do this. And knowing this of myself, and actually I just realized this thinking about what I'm going to say today, I realized that I always led with my heart. I always trusted my instinct and my intuition, and yeah, even if it was uncomfortable. When I was told I had to leave, it was really interesting because I was given 3 months to stay at the company. for the finances, for security, safety, figuring things out. And I knew that if I stay, I'm going to lose myself. I'm not going to be able to be truthful to myself. I'm not going to be able to do the job that the way I'm supposed to do it. So what I did is I talked to many people once that happened. I talked about the disappointment that I had, how this all went down, and just exploring how I felt about it, and at the same time figuring out what next to do. There were two significant people at that time who pointed out that I once said, I want to go back to school. We moved to Valhalla, New York, just about a year ago, and there is a university or a community college right around the corner. And so I was like, "Oh, this sounds like a great idea." So I looked into their curriculum. It would have been starting in 2 weeks, and I was like, "I'm going to do this." So instead of taking these 3 months and still working at that company, I said, "Enough. No, I'm leaving. I don't want to be in this environment. I don't think it's the right thing to do." And I left. And that was the beginning of discovering my own interests and what I truly, truly believe in. And going back to a school system that I didn't know, because I'm originally from Switzerland, which I'm going to go back a little later, and going into the system and not understanding what it really is about, it didn't matter because I just knew I want to go back to school. I'm going to take classes. I'm going to go with no specific um, major. I just went for liberal arts, which opened the interest of creating and being artistic. And I always loved doing art. I don't think I'm great at it, but I still enjoyed it. And so I took art classes and I really realized, I was like, oh, there is no limit to our abilities. Many classes I took were in human nature, like where do we come from the history of the states and how it really came about. And I took racial inequality classes, I took psychology classes, I took anatomy and physiology classes because 10 years prior I did yoga teacher training, which will come back later as well, because I'm going to go backwards. Because sometimes, and this is also why this summit is built the way it was built, even though I didn't realize it at first, but now looking back, this is what it's creating. It's for us to first build this understanding of where we are right now, and then going backwards, connecting these steps back to where we came from our origins, our ancestors, and all this other interesting input. So then going through the school, I didn't have a specific goal. I just knew I wanted to finish because coming from Switzerland, learning how there's structure and if you start something, you gotta end something. Well, I don't know if that's a real Swiss thing, but I just think it is. And so it's that. And then also following through with something, not to give up and always find opportunities to fulfill what you truly want to do. And so at first, I just wanted to get an associate degrees and then possibly a bachelor degrees until I found out that this community college doesn't go further than an associate degrees, which then led me after a year by chance looking into other colleges around, which I then looked into purchase. And once I contacted them, they're like, yeah, we have this one program that I was really interested in, but I have to sign up right now. Otherwise, that is going on hiatus, and we don't know if it's going to come back. But once you're signed up for it, you can finish it under this. And it would have been liberal arts, and you were able to have it just that, because otherwise it would have changed. Liberal arts was going on hiatus, and it would have been liberal science, liberal something else, which at that point I wasn't really interested in. So I followed my intuition and I quickly transferred to purchase and started my school there. a lot of things happened there, but to just stay with the theme is that I kept evolving my interests of humans, the interest of how we function in this world. So politics is not one of my favorite things to talk about, but nevertheless, I took a class in politics in Southeast Asia. So why did I take this? And I realized I took this class not because of the politics, but to understand where people come from, understanding the structure of different countries, of our origins, and really understanding that we have a history that can't be just changed like that. And taking a psychology class and art classes just kept me evolving into these unknown interests. So when it came down to writing papers in, was it at the community college in English classes, or was it as my final paper at Purchase for my bachelor degree, it always came back to the present moment, about mindfulness. And I do not know where it came from. Within that time frame of me exploring in this college environment, I reached out to my previous boss from that company that I was let go, who hired me in the first place, and asked him to teach mindfulness in his company. And he let me do this for about a year. So 2017, for an entire year till into 2018, I was teaching mindfulness there. I had no clue whatsoever what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to create happier environment. I wanted to create people to enjoy going to work and finding time to themselves. And that was the beginning of me tapping into what I really love doing. But again, I did not know exactly what it looked like. And there was like, people had interest in yoga, and I shifted people's interest, at least I know from one person that started taking yoga on the everyday. And it's not like we talked about yoga, we took some classes, but he took this upon himself. So that's one of my success stories. And keep looking into this journey and writing this final paper about digital devices and college students, and as a solution to be more mindful and creating a more awareness of how we use our tools every day and how we communicate on a daily basis, was for me to connect more with that everyday aspect. Once I completed my bachelor degrees, I actually was in a place where I was like, so now what? You know, I think this idea I had to complete a bachelor's degree was because of society, because society is telling you, if you want to get a job, you need XYZ degree and experience. Yes. Well, I realized that if you're a certain age, then experience does matter too. But to get your first step in, a degree is always more helpful. But then I didn't know what I'm supposed to do. And for the one friend actually that was talking to me about going back to school, she just like, you'll figure it out. And she was there when I felt a certain way, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just something. And I then thought, like, I'm going to create mindfulness as a business. I already had, from this yoga teacher training that I did, as Body, Mind, Soul, and that's why on Facebook it's still called Body, Mind, Soul. They don't let me change it for some reason. I stayed in that, and I just started taking classes in mindfulness and really explore a little more. And only in a psychology class where I was a learning assistant, where I was helping the teacher with the students and all that. And I was actually able to teach mindfulness to college students, which was such a treat and an incredible experience, because there were like 50 children, kids, teenagers, students in there that were listening. And it just gave me so much more confidence also to just like stand in front of people and do this. So once I got into the psychology class, he brought mindfulness from his side too. That was such a coincidence because it was incredible, right? That he wanted to bring mindfulness into this class, and then I was working with mindfulness a little bit, but nothing serious. And he gave me this opportunity, and through his classes, I learned of John Kabat-Zinn and mindful schools and all these other places that mindfulness was existent, which actually was the perfect timing. Would have that happened a year prior to this, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to this so much. So once I finished my BA, and with this last class that I was helping out with, and being in a place of uncertainty and not knowing where I'm going to go, I just was in this funky place for a little bit. And a friend of mine who knew that I was interested in mindfulness took me to talk at the school about mindfulness, where I met this person, Jerobras, from Pause to Present, who then introduced me to mindful schools again and told me that she took lots of classes there. And that's what I did. For the first 3 months, I took every single class of that school, and to really deepen my interest in mindfulness. Well, this school that I was learning from was mainly focusing on children. So of course, that's what I thought I would be doing. As I started, I then also wanted to teach to elderly, which I did. I was going into senior communities to teach mindfulness. I went into parenting, teaching parents mindfulness and the children. So it was first for the children, and then the parents came in, and then I taught to them. And so it was an entire journey of figuring out who I really want to talk to. And I enjoyed them all. But then I realized, talking to more people in different fields, that it has to relate to you. You have to tell your story and then relate it back to who you want to talk to. So now we're going backwards a little bit more. The story goes back to that one, I always follow my heart, which I've been talking about yesterday, to love yourself first, and then the day before, do what you love. These two ingredients, these two aspects are just so vital to get to that place of contentment. And in my story, in my journey, I also realized that what I know best is figuring out myself, being a parent at the same time, being a wife at the same time, and creating this environment of peace. Not peace as being like we're just meditating all the time. It does help, but it's a place where we just take every moment as it arises. And I know that sounds maybe cliche, maybe a little strange, but in the end, it is what it is. Because I definitely think that this pandemic has made me even tap further and deeper into where I want to go, which is teaching anybody, but mainly parents, to be more present, to take every day as a new day, to really delve into that. And so what I found interesting is that when I go back when my son was born, I realized that it was an experiment. I called it, when I was pregnant, I called it an experiment. I knew that he is his own being and I cannot force myself on him. And actually, while I was pregnant, I met a stranger on the street who told me, it's like, always remember, he is not your possession. You just help him grow into the person he is. And I mean, that came out of the blue, but he was so right. He was so right. And I think this is also from me thinking that this is an experiment, and from this person telling me that's not my possession, led me to experience parenthood in a different way, which also made me decide to only have one child, because I noticed it's so much that we have to deal with, so much. And that decision was definitely one of the most difficult decisions to make, because it's defining your life for the future. Everything is changing because of this one decision that you make that you can't get back. You can't redo this. And so that's why it's so important to love yourself first and do what you love, because you're the only one that you can control for the future. And so that's the one other thing that led me to realize that mindfulness has always been in my place. What mindfulness also is to embrace your strengths and weaknesses, the sounds around you, and anything that's happening in your life, to take it as it is. I could get frustrated now that the sound is coming, but what I'm supposed to do? Pick it all up and leave? Or can I just sit with it and hope that you still hear me talking, because this is going to come closer, I guarantee you. So, and these discomfort feelings that we're having, this discomfort that we're experiencing, is creating something in us. And I've had many moments of this kind of discomfort, and that wasn't just for a day or two, but for a period of time. When I first came here to the States, after I got married, 2000, now don't, 2003, I got married, and no, 2003 we met. 2009 we got married. So when 2009 we got married, we had this time where I lived in the States, and then I didn't have a job right away. First, I had to get my permit, I had this, and it took a long time until I found a job, almost a year. So my mom would call that, looking back, it's a depression that I had, but I actually didn't experience it as that. It was just a frustrating time. And as I mentioned before, this degree that I got was kind of like a covering up this. Now I got it. I didn't have it back then, which is 11 years ago, but I have it now. And it's just interesting because I still came through, because luckily there are German companies also in New York that understand my background, and I didn't have to explain myself. And so what was interesting is that we are always facing these challenges in life, these obstacles, these boundaries. And if we let these boundaries take over us, yes, we're gonna be in a miserable place. But as Amanda said yesterday, taking these as opportunities, a crisis in Chinese were turned upside down or flipped over, whichever way it's supposed to be, you move into opportunities. And this is what I believe I've been doing my entire life, because prior of getting married, and not just that, but also willing to change, not change for who I am, but to improve myself. I think we should, or transform myself, but I think it's an improvement. Every time we try to tweak little things here and there, change little things here and there, it's an improvement of ourselves from yesterday, from 2 minutes ago, from 10 minutes ago. And so when we develop this awareness that everything changes and nothing stays the same, we can just be happy and content and peaceful and all these positive things, including these negative things that we call negative. But it's actually not negative, it's just an experience. That I remember. And so it's a filter that we put on. And so when I go back to that time of prior to my marriage, this marriage could have not happened if I didn't see certain things to look within, to figure out why I sometimes get so angry. Why do I have these emotions that are just uncontrollable at times? And the only way I was able to figure this out, and the only way I did figure this out, is because I have received a so-called ultimatum: is either you change or there is no future with us. And I really wanted this relationship. This was my soulmate. This person I married, my husband, he is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with as long as it lasts. And I knew this, and I knew that there is something that I do that isn't that great and that can cause an issue between two people. So I read books. That's probably one of the first time I started reading books, because I don't like reading books, or I didn't like reading books. Now, well, not recently, but I've been reading books ever since. And I mean, especially since I've been back in school, that's for sure. So what's interesting is that I started reading books. I started realizing, okay, there's a dark side, but there's also a light side, and to figure this out. So that was the beginning of me figuring it out, how to get to this point. And it's just an evolution. Well, evolution probably is the wrong word, because evolution, I just learned in my psychology class, is more of a very, very long period of time. So it's more of a transformation, definitely. That's shorter for a lifetime considered. And then, so when I look at that, maybe some people will be like, I'm not going to change. Who are you to tell me what to do? But I guess I felt like, because I do everything from the heart, I must have known that this is just the right thing to do, to learn more about myself, getting to know myself better. And that was over 10 years ago. So for over 10 years, I've been trying to figure myself out. That's when I started a yoga teacher training at, yeah, just before, I think it was before we got married, right after we got married, during the time when I was trying to figure things out, actually while the change was happening. Because, and I said this from the beginning, I discovered or tried to learn about myself more. It's like, it's not a one to the next day. It's going to take a long time. I'm still learning. I'm much, 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 much better than I was 11, 12 years ago, but it's still in the process. And so that's what happened. And even going further back is, how did I even end up here in the States? I'm originally from Switzerland, and I just connected with Lara and with Dedu because of dance. Because I came to the States because I wanted to go to dance school. And this only happened because one person that I used to work with said that, oh, you're dancing so great, you should do something with dance. And there you go, I do something with dance. And why the story from all the way back I'm not talking so much about is because they have just been showcasing that I always did what I love the most. You tell me to do something, I'll take it and I run with it. And then till the next thing, I stumble, there's the next thing, and I'll pick it up, I'll talk to people, and then I run with it. And it's something to consider for your own journey. Not to say you should do the same thing, but what I'm trying to say, and what Amanda tried to say yesterday too, or not just tried, but did say, is that when we look within, when we see these challenges that are being put upon us, like a pandemic that we can't control, then we are able to transform to this higher self of us, that the person that we didn't think we could be. Because ending the summit with a superpower is because we all have the superpower if we let go of our thoughts, of our tendencies, of these habits that we so strongly hold on to, of these routines and schedules. And if we can't move and flow with them as they come and go, that every day is going to be slightly different, Yes, we're keeping these schedules. Yes, we're keeping some of the routines, and but to be open-minded and open and heartwarming, to accept change and the change that is happening around us. And just this morning, I was thinking about why I was so interested in the changes of humans and how the evolution of humanity is so relevant to me, is because nature does it by itself. We, on the other hand, we need help. We need the help of knowledge. We need the help of science. We need the help of a higher power. We need help to really understand that what's going on in here is just the creation of ourselves. That's the reality we create. Nobody is putting that on us. What's happening in us is that our blood is flowing, our heart rate is going up and down, the adrenaline is being controlled or not and is regulated, and all these different hormones, chemical reactions in our bodies are what is happening. That's just happening. And whatever we are taking in from the outside world throughout all our senses is what changes our inside. And to bring this all together, why I'm sitting here in front of you, talking to you about my journey and bringing you the summit to you, is to bring you 14 different kind of stories, how you can transform, how you can see the world around you in a different light, and how you can adjust certain aspects of your life with very, very small changes. So this is what I came to think and believe, is that if we change little things every day, if we're able to tweak the way we talk to one another or accept one another for who they are, we create a more understanding and compassionate world for us. Throughout these 3 months, for creating the summit, there has been so many ups and downs in sense of like where I'm going with this, what are you offering after this, and all these questions I have not thought about prior to starting a summit. But I learned that you don't need to know what's coming next. Sometimes what's coming next will arise in the morning of, or the day of, or just out of the blue while driving somewhere by listening to a song that you haven't heard in ages, and all of a sudden something pops in your head. There is no method, there is no calculation, nothing that can tell you how to come up with ideas. It just happens. But what we need to do that is to have pauses and times to let that happen. Because if we're constantly holding on to our ideas, to how something is working or not working, and why isn't it that, and guess what? The sound didn't come. It just disappeared. If I would have been frustrated, imagine how frustrated I would be now moving stuff around. I mean, that was just crazy, right? Anyway, so this is just to show like we really have to go with the changes and invite everything that's coming our way, the way it comes, the way we experience it. Is it anger, sadness, frustration, overwhelmness? You name it. I can't, like, there are just limitless of emotions we can feel. Any emotion that exists, you can feel. And if we try to avoid them, they become stronger. If we try to resist them, they become stronger. We have to invite them. We have to say, come and I will take care of you. Fear, come and I'll take care of you. And how do we do this? So I created 9 workshops for the coming year that will help us do this. It is the idea of, this is 3 times a month for 3 weeks, once a week, where we just meet up and I'll just give you new ideas of how to perceive your life on the everyday. It's to open up your ears and eyes to a world that you might have lived in, but you haven't really seen. To open your heart to the people around you that you might have been feeling harshly to at times because they're not doing it the way you want it to be done. And that's why the first course is about compassion. It's about learning to be compassionate to ourselves, to be okay that mistakes happen, to be okay that somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do, and just feel that space. And it starts October 1st. So it will be really exciting for you to start that journey could save by doing that. And it's about just exploring. It's about figuring out what that looks like. It's about bringing your experiences to every session and try to figure out, like, well, I tried this and it didn't work. What else? And sometimes it requires us to go deep within. But I also believe that if we start with little things on top of the surface, if we start with just opening our eyes to the everyday that we have, it will open your heart to look within deeper. So if you do these workshops with me over these 9 months, you will get to that place automatically, because those tools, these methods that I give you, there are no science. They're not difficult. They're just breathing exercises, awareness exercises. They're just, I don't even think they're exercises. They're just creating awareness in the everyday. And I really would enjoy for you to join me on these courses. They're going to be recorded. You can rewatch them. You get a sheet that you can work with and write down your thoughts. And it's just an exploration of your own life. I know you have a lot of stuff going on. I know your life is filled with with tasks and routines and, you know, things, you have responsibilities that you have to take care of. But this 1 hour a week is just going to help you to tackle these with more grace. That reminds me of Trish. She talks so gracefully and talks about grace all the time. And it really is. It's to be graceful with ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, to be compassionate with ourselves, and really let ourselves be vulnerable, accessible, and ready to take every day as a new day. And that's, to me, the hardest thing, because we don't like to be changing, adjusting, and thinking all the time. But I'll tell you from my personal experience, it actually, even though it sounds like a lot of work, it actually is freedom. It frees up your time because you don't feel so strict to those rules that you put on yourself that nobody else cares about but you. And it to let go and to just ease down and to enjoy life, including the uncomfortable times. So that's what that is. I also wanted to not forget to talk to you about the behind the scenes of this incredible journey of what happened with the summit. And I mean, I've had many, many, many fun things that are happening. So I would like to share with you a couple moments that are just so funny, that I really think they'll be interesting for you to see. And yeah, maybe you find some interest in it. Let me know. So here is the first thing. So I had a visitor. I had a bunny coming by a couple times actually. So it was funny because I didn't think animals want to be so close to somebody talking, but I guess they are. So this is one of them. And then here was the other one. So this was the other one. And then we also had, let me see. So my setups for the sessions were, let me see. All right, so we had some sessions where it was a little wet outside, and this is what my husband took a picture of. Let's see. So that's me outside in the rain, but I had to remove the umbrella at some point because I didn't have reception. So you wouldn't think that, but yeah, that's what happens. And that's what it looked like from my angle. And then, so I had an original setup that looked like this. But then that wasn't really sustainable because I would have had to stand on that chair. And I don't think, one, it would have been very comfortable. And two, yeah, I don't know. That would have probably not worked out so well. So my final setup that I am at right now is this one. So that's my newest setup where I'm currently actually sitting pretty much like this. And yeah, so there were some interesting moments that happened during this time, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. I mean, there was a time with Trish Taylor actually that the battery ran out. I had a 3-hour session with Leah and Trish together, and then Trish by herself, that my computer without battery wasn't actually holding on so long. So after a certain time, like luckily towards the end, it literally cut off this, like when she said thank you. And so when you watch the video why she appeared by herself at the end, this is the reason why. So here's some insight about that. Then other things that happened, we had phone ringing and I cut that out. We had doors ringing, which didn't cut out because it's alive, so I left it as it is because that's just part of it. We also had a wonderful experience with Cindy Olson having our night recording right here with my wonderful setup, so I can be here in nature. So that was a fun one. And let me see what else. There was, yeah, and one call, my son really wanted to play soccer outside, so I was a little distracted in looking to the side often just to make sure everything is okay. And yeah, we had some great sessions with outside the recordings with all of them. I mean, it was just fantastic. I really, really appreciate every single speaker taking their time out of their days to share their stories, their journeys, their insights and tips and everything they shared with me and you to make the summit a real experience. I mean, when I think about this summit, how when I was cutting all the videos, I made the sound. So the beginning of the videos I created, all the wording, the commercial advertisement, everything you see is made by me. It definitely took a lot of time, as Jeff Carrera said. It was him saying, like, yes, I mean, the summit would be one idea, but you definitely have, it's going to be a lot of work. And he was not wrong about this. But to be honest, I would not want to do it any other way. I enjoyed every single bit, cutting the videos, re-listening them, and just promoting them, and I really hope for you to take so much away from this summit. You can rewatch them. I don't put any time on this. I at first wanted to. The idea was to charge after a certain time, and I just didn't feel it was the right thing to do. This is me giving back to you. As Jeff said, we always want to give more than we receive, and this is one way for me to start this journey with you and giving back all these wonderful speakers' insight, their skills, what they learned. And I really wish for you the best and to learn all these things. And if you want to get on the journey with me to be more mindful every day, to deal with these transitions of school, being remote and hybrid and whatever else these schools are throwing at us, and work, how they require you to be at work at the same time, finding these. And I mean, it really is just me talking about it creates the stress in me, and I know how much stress that can be. So I want to help you just to find a little peace of mind, even if it's just an hour a week, but to hopefully increase that idea into your everyday. And by starting with yourself, so these sessions are always 3 of them, and we always start with ourselves and then connecting between ourselves and the other people around us, and then how can we do the same for other people around us. And it's just, I've had now for 6 months, I created these workshops prior to this summit, and the people that attended, there were really a few of them that attended many of them, and it was wonderful. It was for me wonderful to see what they're taking away from, that they're implementing their breathing on the everyday, that they're being more aware of their surroundings. And this is what you can get by joining these courses, either on a monthly basis or on a membership basis for the year. It's up to you. You can also have one-on-one sessions with me if that's an add-on for you, that every off week that there is no meetup, there could be a one-on-one session with me where we can dive even deeper into how you can implement these mindfulness tools, methods to your day, and how to make your life full. To love yourself first, love what you do, and embrace all the emotions that come along the way. So I thank you so much for listening, for being on here with the summit, and I can't wait for your feedback, hearing what you have to say and what you've taken away mostly, or not. Anything would help me. And so I can't wait for you to be on this journey with me. Thank you so much, and for everybody involved and supporting this cause of mindful being and everyday mindfulness. All right, take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.